I'm going to talk for a few moments and then I'm going to sit down because I really want you to hear Kelvin King. So, I feel like joining the state election board was like an Esther moment. I don't know, where you are, your faith, but I'm a believer. I read the Bible, and there's a story about Esther, and they say, such a time as this, you were called to be here. Like, this was a moment just for you. I found myself sitting on the Georgia gang, battling the Democrats, really trying to educate them, but doing the Lord's work that way, and I got the call. Now, at this time, I had only met the speaker twice. So I was a little taken aback as to why I would be selected to, or even considered to join the state election board at that time. Had no clue what I was really walking into. However, I felt the draw the moment I got the call, and I felt like this was something I was supposed to do. So I accepted, and the phone call I had with the speaker was pretty short, to the point. He said, Janelle, I'm not gonna interfere, I'm not gonna get in the way, but just do the right thing. And I said, well, that's easy. Okay. I started doing research before my swearing in. I met with all of the board members, and something that stood out to me was that Dr. Jan and Rick were the two out of the board members who didn't try to sway me in one direction or the other. I didn't notice it as much as I notice it now that I'm in it. But I had lunch with Dr. Jan, and she said, well, I kept asking questions. I was prying, I'm like, well, what's happening? Like, bring me in. And she's like, you'll see. I had lunch with Rick, and Rick is Rick. So Rick, most of the time we talked about his farm and how good the food was. And he said, just know that if you do the right thing, I'm on your side. And I said, okay. I met with the others, Sarah brought me the Carter report and, and all this stuff, and said, make sure you read this and, educate yourself on what, the Democrats think. And I said, okay. And I thought to myself, I think I know what I'm going into at this point after speaking with everyone, because everyone was so vague. So that was a sign for me that this is probably going to be a little bit tougher than I think. So I get in there, and my first meeting was all I needed to see. If you can remember, if anyone who was there, if you weren't, I'm going to tell you how it went. We get there, and a gentleman comes to us before the meeting starts, and he says, I spoke at the meeting beforehand, and then the Secretary of State's people came in and they spoke the next meeting, and I would like to just be able to give a rebuttal. I just need about 20 minutes. And I said, okay, that seems to be fine. I'll tell them. So as the meeting began, we were getting ready to try to add that to the agenda. And that's when our chairman says, we're going into executive session. And I was so confused. For one, there was a motion on the table that he ignored. So I said, oh, we're just breaking rules now, okay. So then secondly, we run up into executive session, and he's pacing the floor. And I can't understand why the emotions were so heightened. And the next thing I know, we're now talking about whether or not someone who is a tax-paying citizen can speak in the house that he pays for. I had to remind them that we are standing in a house that is owned by the people, and that we work for them. It's not the other way around. And the discussion got a little long, so I said, well, first of all, this discussion is supposed to be happening in front of the public. And I said, this is why people do not trust our elections. Because something that's supposed to be in front of everybody keeps happening behind closed doors. What are we doing? righteous indignation rose up in me in that moment. And I realized then that this is more than just a job or a task, but this is a calling. And that we have got to fight. Courage is made when times get tough. It's easy to have courage when we're winning. It's easy to have courage when everything, it seems like it's going in our right way and everything seems to be going smoothly. But courage, real courage comes when your back is against the wall and the only thing you have to do is do the right thing, even when everyone's telling you not to. When you're getting the phone calls that's like, just calm down. Or, oh, just let it slide. Oh, a little fraud, there's nothing wrong with that, until it's your race. That's what I say to elected officials who say to me, oh, there's a little fraud in every election, but you don't want it in your election. That's right. Until you lose by 9 votes, and you can't figure out how because there's not a good auditing process, now all of a sudden we gotta burn the house down for your election. I'm tired of it. So, in order for me to do what I do, in order for me to stand up for everybody, I have to make sure, number one, I'm walking in courage and I have a backbone. And if you're married, you know that's impossible if you have a spouse who's weak. My spouse is not weak. Matter of fact, when I come home, he's like, you did a great job. Oh, you were awesome. Whenever it appears to be a scenario where it's a tough day or, something happened or an article comes out and it's another lie, another smear, he's like, oh, it's okay, whatever. Let's just keep going. He's a constant force. This last board meeting, there was a case that will forever stay in my brain. I will never let it go. It's the city of Oakwood. This city is located in Hall County. And we had an election director self-report herself. She had all of her documents in order. I was so impressed because, I'd never seen anything like it. I was like, we need to hire you. But she had everything in place, but she was an election director who said, we have an election where we sent out 600 absentee ballots to people who do not live in the city of Oakwood, and 300 of those people voted. This was in 2024. And the delta between the winner and the loser in that campaign was 88 votes. And the gentleman who lost didn't challenge it because he didn't have the money to challenge it. Now, the worst part about it is that she handed us emails that were between her and the Secretary of State's office saying, this is a problem, we don't need to certify, we don't need to have this, what do we do? Matter of fact, she had emails before the election had ended where she was saying something's wrong. And they told her to go ahead and continue with the election. So now we have a city where we can't confidently say that the person in that council seat should be there. And we have election board members who are writing notes on the certification paper saying, I really don't want to do this, but my attorney says if I don't, I will be breaking the law. So now we have individuals signing legal documents that they don't believe in.
That's breaking the law.
That's a problem. So I don't care what anyone says. They're always saying things like, let me address this really quickly. I've heard a couple of times, it's a conflict of interest that you're on the state election board and your husband's running for Secretary of State. First of all, let me put that to bed. Number one, I'm the vote of 5. I'm 1 vote of 5. Number 2, there is nothing that we do that will directly impact one candidate and one candidate alone. Number 3, we are told that we're not even supposed to make rules anymore, even though that's what the state code says. So we're just hearing cases. And unless a case comes before me with my husband's name on it, which is virtually impossible because he's not elected, There is nothing wrong with what I'm doing. I will not be bullied out of this seat. I don't care who says it or who does it. I don't care what the AJC, the gossip blog from hell, has to say. I will stand firm. And one thing I know for sure is that if we don't get a better Secretary of State, if we don't do it right now, we may not have another opportunity. And I say that with confidence because I can give you real examples of why the Dominion machine is jacked up. I can give you real examples of why our absentee voting process is jacked up and why our Secretary of State needs to go. That's right. And to be honest, I can't think of one person that I would be willing to vote for other than my husband. Because I'm tired of people putting people in place to run for office and saying, I'll back you, simply because they want them to do what they want them to do. We are beholden to no one but Jesus Christ and the people of Georgia, because we come from the people. I was putting chairs and setting up events and hosting events like this and helping out and interning before I ever was any director or had any title or any of that stuff. I am the grassroots. And we've got to elect people from the grassroots. So I'm going to hand the mic to my husband so you can hear him. But let me tell you, you're not going to find a better leader. You're not going to find someone who has more integrity. It's impossible for me to stand firm and speak with the confidence that I have, particularly when everybody's telling me I'm wrong, when everybody's attacking me from the left and the right, without having a strong force in my house. So meet the leader of my home, Kelvin King.
Yeah, I don't know of any better intro than that, and I don't know how much happier or how much blessed I can be than to have you in my life, Janelle. And it's not really for me, to be honest with y'all. When God blesses you with someone like Janelle, you know you have a mission to do. You know you all are one. And God told me that I'm the head of my wife, and I need to focus on where God sends us. So that's what we're going to do. And it's great to see us in sync. We say that we're in resonance. And when a married couple is in resonance, there's nothing that they can't do, especially if they do it in the name of Jesus Christ. But again, I'm Kelvin King. Thank y'all for having us here back in Walker County. And when I say we love Walker County, I'm not just blowing smoke. We love Walker County so much that we actually came back to go to Phil's Primetime Pizza after we had our tour stop at Phil's Primetime Pizza over in Chickamauga because it was such a good time. And we also almost bought a piece of property here on Valley View Road. Someone snatched it up before us. I was a little disappointed in that. But it's beautiful over here. And if you catch me gazing off into the valley here, you probably know why, because we don't see anything like that in Metro Atlanta. But you know, I am Georgia born and raised, and I've seen a lot in Georgia. I mean, I'm 51 years old, and I didn't spend all my time in Georgia. I did go to Colorado for school, and I served in the Air Force. I was in D.C. area at Andrews Air Force Base. I've lived in San Antonio, but there's no better place to me than Georgia. Georgia's a special place. I mean, not just because of the wide variety of geography and the animals, and I say animals, my wife knows I'm an animal guy, so if I start talking about animals, please excuse me. But because of the people. Because of the people, the Georgians. When I toured across the state, I learned a lot about the people of Georgia. It reminded me about how special Georgians are. We hit all 159 counties. No other candidate has ever done that in 30 days in the history of Georgia. I can say the history of America. And I'm not bragging. I'm telling you that because if I were to vote for someone, Like, how can I ask you to vote for me if you've never even come to my community? And I wanted to make sure that when I ran for Senate last time, that those who voted for me knew that I was there for them, that I cared enough to go to their community, to go to their neighborhoods and their hardware stores and their feed stores and their restaurants and engage with the people to understand what the needs are of the people. Like Janelle mentioned, I mean, I'm the people too. And what I learned all across the state of Georgia is that we actually kind of want the same thing. There's not a lot of differences in what we require and what we desire from our elected officials. We want our elected officials to create environments to do a couple things. One, to live in a safe neighborhood, safe community, safe environment. Number two, to be able to educate our kids and families the way we want them to be educated. Not the way government schools tells us to educate them, but the way we want those government schools to educate our kids. And the third thing is to be able to provide a living for our families, an honest living for our families. Now those three things, they permeate blue and red, Republican, Democrat, old, young, black, Asian, Hispanic. It doesn't matter. That's what Georgians want. And that resonated with me. It resonated so much that, people ask me, Kelvin, why, even tonight, I thought you would run for Senate again. I mean, I thought about it. The Senate wasn't really calling me. The Senate called me for that time. And a couple of you all know what I mean by that. I mean, my family was blessed because of that Senate race. It had nothing to do with me becoming senator in Georgia. But my son found Jesus during my Senate race. And we have been trying to push him, and he said, Dad, I saw how you ran your race. I saw God moving in your race. I think God is real. I want to get to know him, too. That was a win for my family in my Senate race. But this time, there's another calling. Because when Speaker Burns called my wife up there, I had been contemplating Secretary of State, pardon me. When I left my Senate race, people were like, well, Kelvin, why don't you go for governor, LG, Secretary of State, Labor Commissioner? You can win statewide. You've generated a good base. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But what I do know is He's going to tell me. He's going to make it plain. My wife knows. I'm going to say something. But my wife knows. She's always like, Kelvin, what should we do? We want to analyze this, and maybe we should do that. I'm like, Janelle, God will make it plain. He's going to make it plain for us. Because I will overanalyze anything, okay? I'm an analytical mind. I went to the engineering school. Raise your hand. Yep. We will overanalyze anything. Like I'm thinking about what's the best way to leave here tonight? Should we go that way or that way? Because if we get home by a certain time, that means that we'll be able to do that. But if we go that way, it may be more risky around those. I analyze. But God made this plain for me. I was thinking about Secretary of State, but I'm like, God, you sure? And she got that call from Speaker Burns. And what she was able to do was to show and avail to me, help me see what kind of mess our Secretary of State's office is in. I don't think the typical Georgian realizes how much of a mess our Secretary of State's office is in. I don't, because they talk about how perfect our elections were, how they've done audits and there's 99.9999. No, they say it's 100% accurate. That's what they say. We all know that's not true. It's a lie. But what this has allowed me to see is there's a need in that office. We need to have secure elections.
That's right.
It's not an option. It's a requirement.
That's right, my brother.
We need to have transparent elections. Now, who you vote for is always secret.
Yeah.
But tallying the votes, that needs to be public. Transparency is a requirement. That builds honest elections, and it builds confidence in our elections. And right now, there's nothing that's lacking most in the electorate of Georgia than confidence. People don't have confidence in our elections. In fact, I bet you all think that your vote doesn't count. That's a shame. You gotta think and feel like your vote counts. More than that, you gotta know that your vote counts. You do that with one thing: good leadership.
Some of our votes count for us.
You're darn right, and that's a problem. And that goes to my first point. There are systemic irregularities in our election process. Systemic irregularities. And I know that because there's cases that come in front of the state elections board month in and month out about irregularities. Double voting, double counting, disenfranchised voting. Like Janelle mentioned with Oakwood, those voters were disenfranchised. I was interviewed by a gentleman named Greg Bluestein. I don't, for those of you who don't know who Greg Bluestein is, he's a writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, AJC. And, Greg, he tried to press me on a point. He said, hey, Kelvin, President Trump has riled up the people to where they're actually threatening our election workers. Our election workers feel unsafe. I said, that is a travesty. That cannot and should not happen. He's like, well, you don't trust our elections? I was like, no, I know there were problems with our elections. But the major problem was with our leadership. Because if we had a strong leader who oversees our elections, educating our elections offices, the staff in the elections offices, being clear with our processes and our procedures, they would be able to translate that to the people and explain what is happening, why it's happening, and the people will be able to see why it's happening. Why aren't there training videos about our election process for the people? I think the reason why is because the Secretary of State doesn't want to stand behind a certain process. They want it to be fluid. Fluidity is not needed, does not belong in our elections process. I was asked about, well, do you not believe in technology? I said, darn right I believe in efficiency and technology, but I believe in accuracy more. And you gotta be able to check these machines with paper. The reason why is because I trust paper way more than I trust that machine. That machine can be broken into, it can be hacked, it can be recoded, and there's instances of every single one of those happening with our machine right now, the Dominion machine. Right. So, just to give a little bit of background, I was a contracting officer in the Air Force. I don't know who knows. Does anyone know what a contracting officer does? They do procurement, purchasing. They're trained for years on how to spend public dollars. We've got to go through so many classes to spend your dollars wisely and responsibly. I went through that training. I don't think anybody in the Secretary of State's office went through that training because when the Dominion machine was procured, there were so many problems with that procurement. It wasn't public. There wasn't a selection panel. The market research wasn't thorough. The scopes of work wasn't comparable. All that stuff is supposed to happen. I'm getting a little detailed now, but just kind of bear with me. Just know that when I'm in this seat, I'm going to do it the right way. You got to have exit clauses that are non-penalty clauses. Right now, they're saying there's going to be $100 million if we end this. You did it wrong. I'm going to review this contract. I'm going to find every way to end it and exit that contract without it costing you all a cent. That's what I'm going to do. The Dominion has to go. Something else that just irritates me, and this was a conversation with that reporter also, auditability. Does anyone know what a risk limiting audit is? Bless you. It doesn't audit all the ballots. It takes a sample size and projects that sample size to represent the entire batch or all the ballots. I don't trust that personally. Our voting process is way too important to project. We want to know what the votes were, period. So you got to have paper in order to have definitive audits. So I believe in hand-marked paper ballots because you can go back, you can count those. And it's not taking a step back. I can explain the details of how that works if you like, but I'm not gonna hold us up. And one other thing that bothers me, and these are all examples of systemic election irregularities. You're supposed, in this system that we're currently using, you're supposed to be able to review the ballots through electronic images. It's called ballot images, right? Have you all heard about the ballot images? Well, why can't we look at the ballot images for Fulton County? That's what I fear, sir. That's what I fear, that they're missing. And we don't have a person in that Secretary of State's office with the character and the courage to step up to the plate and say, I screwed up. The ballot images are missing. We've got to make a change. We've got to do something to fix that. We don't have anybody with that courage or backbone. Nobody in the administration. Period.
Because he knows he lost.
That's why he's got to go. One other thing that I wanted to touch on before I wrap things up for questions, and that is, you've heard about cleaning up the voter rolls recently, right? There's supposed to be like 400,000 voter rolls that's going to be cleaned up. You know, if we allow our voter rolls to become stale, if we don't maintain continuously our voter rolls, it opens up the market or the possibility for impropriety, for vulnerability, for trickery to happen with our votes. That disenfranchises you. We got to have a continuous monitoring, maintaining, managing of our voter rolls. Because an unqualified voter takes your vote away. And not by another machine. Yes, sir. You're exactly right. So I'm not a fan of a system that only matches eligibility or qualified or unqualified with half of the states in the country. Our current ERIC system, it only searches half of the states. Not even half of the states, only 23 states. Why are we spending money on that? There's other states that don't do that, and they're able to maintain and manage their voter rolls. So we got to have the heart and the will to go into our voter rolls and fix the voter rolls. The third thing, you all know, how many business owners do I have out here? All right. The Secretary of State's office is critical when it comes to our business. We always talk about Georgia is the #1 state to do business in. How many of y'all have had to get a license recently? How many of y'all have had to go to the website to figure out how to navigate? How many of y'all have had a good experience and very efficient experience doing that? So I had about 7 people raise their hand, and 0 people who raised their hand about the website, the efficiency, and the time frame of turning around a license. That's one of the primary roles of this seat. So if we don't evaluate our processes, I'm a process-driven guy. I've been an executive for a long time, and I know sometimes people call it boring, but what excites me, my wife knows this, is if I can improve a process, and then next year it gets even better, and then next year it gets even better. Like, that's exciting to me. Process improvement is where we need to focus our energy on our licensing process. Even if we have to go to a third party or outsource it, I know how to outsource. I will watch over our procurement process like a hawk. But we've got to turn around our licensing process. Let me tell you a quick story. We were in Gordon County recently. There's a gentleman who said his daughter is a massage therapist. She wanted to get her license. She went to one of the best schools in the country, somewhere in Colorado. And she tried to work with the Secretary of State's office, showing that, hey, listen, I went to one of the most renowned schools to get my massage therapy license. She got the runaround. She was telling me that they told her that they weren't familiar with the school. Well, I mean, do you need to be familiar with the school to know that the school is credentialed? But she got so frustrated that she moved to Chattanooga to start her massage therapy business. That's not the best state in the country to do business in. We've got to have dedicated people with some sort of will and concern to ensure that business stays fruitful in Georgia, that it keeps moving. I'm a capitalist to my heart. I don't know anybody here that's more of a capitalist than me. I believe in competition. But we've got to get our processes together. Those are the things I'm going to bring to the Secretary of State's office. I'm not a hooping and hollering politician, but I'm a politician that knows how to get something done. Because I'm a businessman, and I like process improvement. As I close, I'm concerned about this race and the fact that the Secretary of State's office is going to be putting someone in this race who works for the office. He's the COO of the Secretary of State's office. He's likely to be running in this seat, for this race. There's also another gentleman who's a state rep that's already announced to run in this race. I think he's on the Kemp side. But what I'm concerned about is both of those candidates, they want the state election board to roll back under the Secretary of State's office. People, that's a problem. We cannot allow that. We cannot even consider a candidate that is okay with not having a checks and balances in our Secretary of State's office. I want you to pay attention. I know there's people that know what's going on. I talked to a couple people from Union County. I know people here in Walker knows what's going on. Pay attention to this race. So I want you to go to our website, follow us, volunteer for our campaign. We need people. We want to overwhelm the voting booth. We want to overwhelm the voting system with people that's voting for Kelvin King for Secretary of State. Because you know what I'm talking about. You know that these candidates will sell a bag of goods to the public and they'll get the media behind them. We're not selling you a bag of goods. We're not in anybody's pocket. I made my own money. I don't need anybody's machine for my race. I just need your votes. So follow us on kelvinking.com. It's KELVIN, That's KELVINKING. I was told I needed to make sure I say that very clearly and slowly because people call me Calvin and Kevin and Calvin. It's Kelvin, like the temperature. Degrees, Kelvin, you got it? Tell your family, your friends about my candidacy. Volunteer, support us financially, but most of all, vote. Because one thing I can guarantee, this is a charge you can put on me. I will make sure, I will guarantee that your vote will count.
That's right.
Thank y'all for your time. And I'm here for any kind of questions you may have.
Stay here. I'm not supposed to do this, and I'm not going to officially endorse, but I just want to talk to y'all a minute. I don't know of a race that's more important than the Secretary of State's office. Everything that's happened, probably the reason why we're all in this room tonight, probably the reason why we're all involved in knocking on doors and working for free and working our butts off for years is because we needed someone like this man in the Secretary of State's office. I can't be any more clear. Okay? I can't be any more clear without saying the words that'll get me in trouble. So I'm not going to do that. But y'all know me. 2020 woke me up. It woke us, we all woke up together, okay? I get that. But we're here, and the right war that we have to win consists of individual battles, individual situations, individual people that God brings into the field. And that's when we pick up our sword and we go to battle behind a leader that we can trust and we can put our faith in. That's very few and far between. Can we find someone? Very few and far between. Okay? Can you find someone that you can actually put your faith in? Because also they happen to put their faith in the Lord Jesus Christ.
That's right.
So I'm asking you all to call your friends, text your friends, and I'm going to be getting together some people. We're going to be knocking on doors. Remember Trump Force 47? We know what to do. I know what to do. I just need your body and your time and your mind and your heart and your soul to pray for this man, to lead God, for God to lead him with every step that he takes and every word that he says, and to work through him, okay? I feel real, y'all, I don't tell y'all this very much. I don't know if I've ever told y'all that. I don't even know if I talked like this about Trump.
You did.
I did, okay. I'm asking you, let's get on the train, and we're going to work really hard and do what we have to do, short of officially endorsing, because we don't want to get in trouble. But so with that being said, I'll probably stop now before I start singing a gospel song and we start having some church, which I'm capable of doing.
I'm reminded by several things that you brought up tonight. You're talking about transparency and accountability. You're also talking about procurement and ways out of the contracts. Okay? If you get elected, I would like you to make publicly available, because I've been looking since 2021 and nobody seems to have one. There is no contract with Dominion that has anybody's signature on it in the Secretary of State's office. I have lots of contracts, lots of different versions, none of them signed.
Interesting. I will find out for sure. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a basic in contracting, right? I will review the contract. I will evaluate it. That's one of the number one things that I'm concerned about is that.
They make it very difficult.
Yeah. So Georgia has a group called, an agency called Department of Administrative Services, DOAS. DOAS does the procurement for state agencies. So I'll have a good working relationship with DOAS because I understand government contracting. But good question. Thank you for that. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
At Walker County the other month, you spoke about the RAINS Act and some of the things that should have got passed this last year. Can you speak on that? The RAINS Act, Red Tape Rollback.
Oh, red tape rollback. Okay.
It didn't pass this year. Can you speak on that? I appreciate you talking.
I can speak a little bit about it. One thing I do know is that the Georgia Public Policy Foundation, does everyone know what the Georgia Public Policy Foundation is? They do a evaluation of all the states in the country, and in terms of regulatory burden, Georgia is like the bottom 4 states or something like that in terms of regulatory burden. That means that we have a lot of hoops that our states have to jump, our companies have to jump through in order to do work in our state. I'm actually a contractor. I do work with state agencies with my company, so we serve through that route as well. And I know there's a lot of hoops that we have to jump through, a lot of requirements and regulations that may not be necessary to do certain basic services or provide certain basic products. As a Secretary of State, what I will do is I will work with our DOAS, I'll work with our legislative agency, our legislative body, and I'll work with whoever our governor is to try to reduce the level of regulations that our businesses have to jump through. I think that it's almost embarrassing if we're the best state to do business in and our regulatory burden is one of the worst. That's a huge contradiction. So that's how I see that. I will work with our legislators to move that forward if possible. Yes, sir.
Do you see anything Trump done in the office since he's been elected?
I think that I don't think he's done a good job of really like educating the public exactly on what's happening. I mean, he's doing some pretty tremendous things. I mean, these things are historical sit downs with Putin and Zelensky, and other countries that have, pardon me? Yeah, other countries that have a stake in peace. This needs to be known. We need to be talking about this in our schools. You know, I mean, obviously, we've all seen the shuttle go up in the air, and, schools shut down for us to see this. Even back in the day, I know when I was in school, it was shut down for that. I mean, why aren't our schools shut down for these historic talks? And why aren't the teachers explaining how these talks are really shaping the world? Like, we're leading the world right now. We're not at war, but we're brokering peace, hopefully. And President Trump is driving that. So, I mean, I can't talk about the rights or wrongs, but I think that he could probably tout that a little bit more. Yes, sir.
What I'd like to ask is, it seems like we can never get anywhere one way or the other because our current Secretary of State just shuts everybody out. Will you make a pledge as Secretary of State that you'll keep an open door policy, and on these crazy issues that we're all back and forth about, you can figure out a way that you can unite and bring people together and we can squash some of this stuff?
Yes, I mean, that's the easy one for me. Yes, I mean, I started my talk today to talk about the three things that cuts across, all Georgians. I mean, we all care about these same three things. And what that creates is a network or a knitting of unity. Like everybody wants to have secure elections. That's not just election integrity people. Everybody wants that. Oftentimes they don't know what's happening and they're being sold a bag of goods. I mean, I don't know if y'all know this. Our current Secretary of State's administration, the current one right now, 3 weeks ago, said that 10% of the voting population are dumbasses. Am I lying?
He said it.
I'm at a loss for words. If you look at the people, it's about 8 million people who vote typically. I mean, that's 800,000, almost 1 million people that he thinks are dumbasses. Pardon my language. I'm just repeating what he said. That is not okay. They've got to go, y'all. These people in these seats, they think that they own them. They think that they're kings. They think that you work for them. That cannot happen. And they've got to go. Let's show them that the people control these seats. This is an elected position. This is not an appointed position. So, in 9 months, all right, we got to get this thing started early. In 9 months, it's the primary. That's when you can vote for Kelvin King for Secretary of State. But that gives us 9 months to get our stuff together, and 9 months to talk to people, 9 months to spread the word, 9 months to hone our messaging. We can do it, though. I have confidence in Walker County, and I have confidence in Georgians. So, hey, thank y'all again for your time. I really enjoyed it.